Good afternoon and welcome to Dialogue with Deidre. I'm your host, Deidre Malone. I have somebody in the studio today that I've known since she was 8 years old. And I have to say that I'm so proud of Gabby Salinas. I'm proud of her for a number of reasons. Not only is she a scientist, but she has a heart for public service. Gabby Salinas, welcome back to Dialogue with Deidre.
Thank you for having me. It's so great to be here with you because you've been a part of my story since the very beginning.
I know. Every time I think about how I was at the airport when you arrived in Memphis and to see where you are today, I tear up thinking about how proud I am of you.
Oh, Memphis grown.
You are, and you are real Memphis. So Gabby, you're a trained scientist. What made you decide you want to get involved in politics?
Healthcare legislation. I think I always say I'm very much a product of the things that I have been through and the times I've lived in. I lived in a time before the Affordable Care Act passed, where pre-existing conditions were very much a thing, where lifetime caps were a thing.
Yeah.
So growing up in all of that and knowing that our laws allowed for that level of discrimination, I think as minorities, people of color, we feel it. So it's easier to recognize. And I felt that as a patient that had survived cancer 3 times, I felt that level of discrimination from these insurance companies down to my core. I was like, how can our country allow these laws that allow these companies to discriminate against people? You can't help if you've had cancer.
No, you can't.
Or if you were born premature or any of those. So that's what got me interested in politics and working to make sure that we have better health.
Well, let me just say, you talked about having cancer 3 times, but perseverance is something that you have. You ran for office not once, but twice, but the 3rd time, and the 3rd time was the charm. That speaks to perseverance, right?
Yeah, and I always say that I think that everything I have been through, there's nothing that life has not thrown at me that's going to come my way in politics.
Right.
Because I know, you have had a similar journey.
And you were there with me through that journey.
But beyond that, and your personal life as well.
Yeah.
We lost our dads really young. I think
Yes,
that teaches you how to overcome things. We're one of 5.
Yes.
We're the older sisters.
We are.
We like to be in charge.
To run some stuff.
I think as people, when we see things that and take up spaces where people like us haven't been there, we need to pull from that personal life and overcoming. Life has not been easy for us. And I think you pull from all of that life has thrown your way to make you resilient, to make you overcome things, and to seek opportunities in places where they may, it may look a little bleak, but I think you've been able to do that with your business. I've been able to do that in politics and in science.
Absolutely.
Science takes a lot of perseverance.
Yes.
And it's not the smartest people that are successful. It's the people that don't give up.
Well, I have to say, but every time you ran, Gabby, it was so close. And I think about how the GOP put a whole lot of money behind trying to make sure that you didn't win, right? That first Senate race and the House race. And you still were just like that close. And this time, you were able to persevere. Everybody knows this story well. People that listen to this show know. I went to bed and I thought, oh my goodness, Gabby lost, and I was sick. I woke up the next morning and realized she hadn't. So, every vote counts, right?
Absolutely. And I was like, don't count me out.
No.
No. Don't count me out because I'm a very hard worker. I think there's a lot of the stuff that I've learned in science in terms of data crunching and just being able to mobilize people that played into this race. And I think that we sent a message. I think the people in District 96, I was so proud that we had some of the highest turnout at the district level from the entire county. Yeah. So I think that's something that all of us can be proud of.
So what do you want to go to Nashville and do?
Well, we have a lot to do. We have to do overtime. Overtime. Because not only on the healthcare side of things and the healthcare front, I think because of everything that has happened nationally, we have a lot of work to do on the side of education, on the side of healthcare, on the side of civil rights. The report just came out, and that was one of the fears that I had, that that investigation was not going to be completed before Biden left office, and there would be a lot of shifts within the Department of Justice, and that we would fall again through the cracks or something would happen. So I'm glad to see that it's just confirmation of things that we've known that are happening. We know that the state legislature is trying to undo the ordinances that were passed at the city level. They love to come from Memphis.
I don't understand it.
But, Memphis, we're fighters, and we're not going to give in, and we're not going to go without a fight. So we have to fight to make sure vouchers don't get passed. That's a top priority for the Lee administration. And we know that takes money away from our public schools that are already struggling. And it's a privatizing bill.
Yeah.
It's a privatizing bill that does not benefit our community. I always say if we can get healthcare and education right, we would go a long way to solving so many of our problems.
Those are like the two big priorities for you, healthcare and education?
Yeah, I would say that those are the two largest things that are going to be at the forefront for this legislative session, especially if the Affordable Care Act gets overturned. I think that it will shift a lot for Tennessee.
Well, the former president, about to be president-elect, he tried it one time. Yeah. I guess my hope is that there are some GOPers who know that it doesn't make sense for him to overturn it, and they don't vote for what he's trying to do.
Well, and it's important to, when we say the Affordable Care Act, that's a very big bill that has a lot of things in it. So we're talking about undoing pre-existing conditions.
Exactly.
Undoing lifetime caps, undoing if you're 26, you can stay on your parents' insurance. So a lot of people sometimes don't realize that they're benefiting from provisions of the Affordable Care Act. And they're like, yeah, we can get rid of that because maybe they're not getting their insurance through the market. Right. Maybe they're not on Medicaid expansion. But this bill was a very big, important bill that has changed the way we deliver healthcare for millions of people. And we have to make sure that we protect it.
Well, I do something once a month with Local 24, with Richard Ransom and Otis Sanford, and I think Susie Thorpe was on this one. And right before Thanksgiving, they ask you, what are you thankful for? And of course, I'm thankful for my family, like you, and my close friends. But they also ask, who was the turkey of the year? Who did I consider the turkey of the year? And I had said it was Governor Bill Lee, because of what he was trying to do when it comes to education and vouchers, and the ban on reproductive health care rights for women, as well as banning books. Yeah. I mean, do you really have time for all of that at the state level? And really, when it comes to Memphis and Shelby County, and in some instances, Davidson County, there's major overreach. You think Absolutely. GOPers used to say, government's local. Not anymore.
No.
So, Gabby, the numbers on the Democratic side are low. How are you going to try and go up there and work with some of the GOPers to advance legislation for Memphis and Shelby County?
I think there's a lot more agreement among and there's the Democrat versus Republican divide, but I think there's also a rural versus urban divide that happens as well. But in our rural areas, they don't have a lot of private schools, right? And the governor's office and the legislature knows this, right? This is why that bill, the original bill that passed, and it only passed by very few votes, right? Was only targeted to Shelby County and Davidson County, and that, first of all, that's in the opinion of many courts. I'm not that should have been considered unconstitutional.
Exactly.
And
lawsuits for days.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So, and not to mention that it targets the immigrant community as well. So there's a lot of agreement there. So I think that this gives us an opportunity to work with our friends in the rural areas that do not want to see this happen. I think that we saw the level of spending in primaries, in Republican primaries, where people that were pro-public education and against vouchers were trying to get taken out by, and there was a lot of money put behind them. So I think that they know that that this is an unpopular thing everywhere, all across the state. So I think that there is an opportunity to work with our friends in the rural areas. When it comes to healthcare, the same thing. Memphis is going to be fine. We're going to have hospitals. We have many hospitals to pick from to go to. That our rural friends don't have that.
And they've been closing.
One. Exactly.
And they've been closing.
Exactly. So if Medicaid expansion continues to be a thing, we can partner with them in making that case. But it's I don't want to oversell because it is going to be challenging.
Right.
And we have to keep at it. We have to keep at it, and we need people to get involved and engaged now more than ever because of the results at the federal level as well.
Gabby, are you one of the first Latinos to go to the state legislature?
Yeah, I'll be the first Democratic Latina.
Oh, my goodness, really?
Yes.
History making. So proud of you. You feel the pressure of that, going up there to represent?
I do, but I think that if I wasn't there, that we wouldn't have a voice. So I'm honored to have this place of privilege to be the voice for our community that hasn't had someone there to speak up for us. I think it's easy to talk about our community without when there isn't someone there representing and saying, this is what immigrants are bringing. They're criminals, or do this, or do that. But when you are there, you're like, hey, you're talking about me.
Right.
You're talking about me, and, I have a graduate level degree. I work in my community, and many of us contribute so much to our community. And that often gets lost. But when you have someone at the table that represents that, I think it gets the message across loud and clear.
So you're going to be sworn in January. What's one of the first things you want to do once you're sworn in? And I'll be there, by the way.
Yes, so you can't miss that. So I think some of the healthcare, I would love to, I'm talking to people because a lot of the people, I am new. Everybody that has been up there already, I've been figuring out how to work with people. There have been sponsors to the Medicaid expansion bill already, but I have talked to Leader Camper about getting added to those bills. I've already signed on to 2 bills. I got to work. As soon as I was like, I am here to work, I've already hired a legislative assistant. So
good.
Yes. So I've signed on to the getting rid of the grocery tax. We have the highest grocery tax in the country. So that bill is being sponsored by Afton Bain in the House and Charlene Oliver in the Senate.
In the Senate, okay.
And then I've already signed on to the birth control and IVF protection bill. Okay. That's being sponsored by Ramesh in the Senate, and then Harold Dove in the House. Okay. So those are 2 pieces of legislation that I've already signed on. I would love to see some election reform. I think that would be exciting to see in Tennessee. Obviously, the odds are stacked up against us, but I think we still have to make the case. We can't just say, oh, they have the supermajority, therefore we're not going to file this or that. I think that we still have to push for that legislation.
I asked Representative Hardaway a couple of years back, what would it take for us to advance a statewide referendum where people would have an opportunity to vote on reproductive health care for women? What would we need to do to try and make that happen?
So we would have to file first a constitutional amendment that would allow for that to happen.
Okay.
And then within that, we would have to change the Constitution to be able to. Okay. Because currently, I don't think people know that, how many states are having these referendums or amendments that are statewide that can be started by the public.
Right.
So you collect petition signatures and you file it, and usually there's different laws depending on the state. But in Tennessee, there is nothing that the public can get on a ballot that's statewide without going through the legislature. So right now, only constitutional amendments can be placed on the ballot, and it has to pass in the House, it has to pass in the Senate, it has to be on a gubernatorial year. So it gets really challenging. But for us to be able to have something that's led by the public, we would have to change our Constitution and have that constitutional amendment.
Well, and with the makeup of our state legislature, that's not going to happen. So.
And they don't want it because our policies are popular.
Yeah.
Whether you're Florida just passed a 15 minimum wage. They passed restoring rights or having voting rights for people that are incarcerated or have been incarcerated. The abortion amendments on election day, 9 out of them won. So that's what we stand for and what we're fighting for are popular, and they know that.
Yeah. Well, I'm just so glad you're going to be there and so excited for you and your tenure. And I think this is probably one of your colleagues calling me right now. But while we wrap this up, I've got a couple of questions that I want to ask you. And hopefully, you're an elected official now, so hopefully this won't get you in trouble. But what's your favorite food?
Well, I'm from Memphis. I have to say barbecue.
Okay. All right.
And it doesn't matter. I like ribs, pulled pork, all of it.
Okay. That's safe. You're not going to get any emails
and
about that.
Bolivian food, of course.
Of course, yeah. What's your favorite song or your favorite music artist?
You are getting me in trouble. This is bad. Just so everybody knows, I didn't get the questions ahead of time. I'm going to go with a safe answer. They'll go with a Spanish singer.
Be safe.
No, but I really do like this person. Her name's Gloria Trevi. She's a Mexican singer. But I like her music a lot.
Okay, and what's your favorite song that she sings?
Oh, that's hard because I like so many of them. It's called Y Todos Me Miran.
Okay.
I like that one.
Your favorite vacation spot?
I don't take my vacation.
I know you don't.
I don't know. I'm not very picky on a location. I just like to disconnect. Anywhere where I can disconnect from social media, my phone. If there's no Wi-Fi, if there's nothing, that I love disconnecting. I'm not a beach person. Sorry to all the beach goers out there. I'm more of a mountain person or, So anywhere I can disconnect is good.
State Representative Gabby Salinas, thank you so much for coming on Dialogue with Deidre.